been phone or email. But it's actually been fine for some reason. I guess maybe it's our generation. We're so used to texting, email, and phone calls that I still feel like I can connect with them, even though I've never personally have met them before. And I'm good with it, but I guess it's not for everyone. Depends on the person.
Yeah, I guess depending on your work style. And then a silly questions, but I'm very curious since I'm a manager. How do you guys do evaluations remotely? So I guess it'll be through the phone. And how would they measure how good you are, I guess, in terms of metrics?
Yeah, you are a manager person. So they do have ways to run reports, and maybe this is what helps me being a manager before, even though I'm not a manager now at this part-time place. But whenever you enter in, you know, you activate an order,
Hmm.
we have our own program, or pipeline does, where there's a way to account for it on our end. It's almost as if we have our own system to account for it. um, you know, and because of that, there's a way for us to run reports, and that's how people know how well they're doing, how quickly they activate orders, and then of course all the phone calls with the nurses and the doctors are recorded, right? And so they do, they don't check every single phone call, but it's an audit, right? Randomly things get selected and they make sure that I'm not being overly angry or upset at the nurse or something like that. I'm explaining things well enough. I sound coherent and competent, all that good stuff. And so they rate you on that. They rate you on how many orders you do. But it's also nice. They also account in if, like, some pharmacy information system are more friendly than others.
Hmm.
So, they account for, let's say, one of the systems I use is kind of the VA system, the Vista system, black and white screen, not the friendliest one. So that means they will account for that. They know it's not as fast,
There's
because
a lot of
it's,
F function, and yep, I came
yeah,
from the VA, and you got to do that. It's the old
yeah,
computer system.
yeah, good times, good times.
I don't miss it. I don't miss it.
Well, it's interesting. I like the CPRS system, because everything is there. No matter what state they go to, all the information is there. I like that part. But
Yeah,
the
that's
Vista, the
true.
black and white screen, yeah, that's
It's a
something
bit
else.
harder. And then the other question before we finishing up, because a lot of folks with this coronavirus are doing remotely, so it's a very interesting position that you have. So I want to make sure I ask a lot of questions that I think our viewers have.
Mhm.
So how do they train you? Because you say you can cover from 5 to 10 facilities
Yeah.
in any given day, and that one day could verify orders from 5 different facilities, or like, and how do they train you at each facility, or what that training looks like, and how long is that?
Yeah, sure. So the training is a lot like what we're doing. They actually use WebEx too, by the way, to train. And so they always have, I noticed they tend to have like a couple different videos. One video is where they tell you in general how to use a pharmacy information system. So, if it's Meditech, you know, go through the bbasic functions of, well, I guess it depends on what Meditech you have, right? If you have Meditech Magic, that might be a little harder to pick up, but the other Meditechs aren't too bad. And then you have, your CPRS, et cetera, et cetera. And then you have a second video where they kind of show more the preferences of the facility. Like I mentioned earlier, every hospital is different. They have different preferences. And of course, every state have their own regulations. So, they'll kind of walk you through that with stop dates, or when to time warfarin, the little details, stuff like that. And as far as training, it's kind of, like I said, it's not for everyone. This is definitely a very self-directed type of place. And maybe that's why it worked out for me, because, like I said, I kind of self-directed my own studying to begin with. Um, so you just, I just look at my timeline and I'm like, okay, I can probably get it done by this time. And then the regional trainer will ask me how long I think it will take. They say they prefer for me to get it done by this date, and I tell them if I think it's possible or not.
Mhm.
And then we mutually agree, and it's kind of flexible depending on what comes up. And then they also have live training too. They call it live training, where I would, sit here and activate orders with the under my name for that facility, and then someone who's already been very experienced with that facility would watch me, make sure I'm not doing something horrific, or they'll correct me or tell me some tricks that, hey, there's an easier way to do this. There's an order set somewhere. You don't need to enter in that order, stuff like that. So that's how the training kind of goes. As far as how
Okay.
long as it takes, um, I think I recently trained for like 6 different facilities, and it took me about a month, I think. But do keep in mind that was just like 2 days each week within that month, and then I took care of them.
And then you just went. Like after training, is there any competency to make sure that, hey, Anna's good to go? Like she knows what she's doing. Is there like is a trial period or is it like, okay, she's good. She did these XYZ training and she's go.
Yeah, so I was training with my regional manager and, of course, the rest of the team too. And they if they feel confident that I'm ready to go, then that's part of it. The other part is there is a test, an assessment at the very end, like you said, to test over the policies and procedures and things like that to make sure, like you said, you are competent. And and then they actually try to give like a little overlap where when you're pretty much almost completely on your own, no one's really watching your screen anymore. But like, for example, my first weekend on to take care of all these new facilities, I had someone who really knew what they were doing with these facilities, and they were there. They let me do everything, but if they notice I was kind of falling behind and a little in trouble, then they pick up for me. Or if I had questions because I haven't seen this type of order before,
Mm,
I was able to get immediate feedback. So, there is some support there. But again, like I said, still pretty self-directed though.
got you. And then when you sit down and work, you have what kind of resource you have in front of you? Is it just your laptop? And you say you have orders from 5 different facilities with different probably technology. So how do you manage that? That just sounds so novel to me.
Yeah, no worries. So I actually have right now, I have 2 monitors, 2 big monitors. I have a laptop, and I have a keyboard, a mouse, all that good stuff, all connected together. And then it does look a little weird at first, but I think you just kind of get used to it. I have like multiple pharmacy information systems, like maybe 2 or 3 on each screen. And then I make sure to size them, so I can kind of see them a little bit because, they time out if, you don't do anything for a while too. So if I notice like the screen all of a sudden like changes color, I go back into it and refresh it right away so it loads back up. Um, and resources, you will laugh at my computer. I have way too many windows and way too many tabs open. I'm that person. I'm that pharmacist.
All the information, make sure everything is dotted just right, crossed out, which is
Yeah,
good. Which is
yeah.
good.
I mean, I guess I use your normal stuff. Up to date is a really good, quick one, to use when you're like processing a whole bunch of orders at once. But I also use ClinCalc, to help me with some of the Vanco dosing. If the nurse calls me and they need a dose right away. Um, so that's just a few of them, though. Of course, LexiComp. Um, there's a lot. I won't list them all. I'll bore you.
No, you won't bore the audience. That'll be helpful. Try to make this very actionable for them. So what are some, so that's good that you, so it looks like you still order. So what is the, do they have a max number of facilities that you are accounted for when you work? Or is it just depends on the days? Like is every day the same or is it different? And are you going to
Yeah.
be with the same facilities throughout your, I guess, period, or you get added on to various, like, you get rotate throughout?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good question. So I actually started out with what they call the Northeast region when I got hired on. Now I'm in the Southeast region. So as you can see, I did move, and that's why I actually had to pick up, like I told you, about 6 new facilities because I wasn't trained on them. Um, but as far as rotating, I don't think it's normal for someone to move from one region to another, but you never know, like as you can see with me, it happened. And then I think the other thing is sometimes, let's say, a new region is picking up a client from a new state. but and let's say this person in another region has a license for that state, then maybe they'll shift over. I can see that happening, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, most of the time you just take care of this similar clients, but as people as pipeline pick up additional clients, they might ask for me to, train on that new client. So it does change a little bit. I might get another client in another month or two or something like that. So,
So with your 10-year experience at Pipeline, how many facilities have you worked with?
you sure you want to know?
I sure do. I think the audience will be very interested.
uh,
Estimate. I'm
so
pretty sure.
I'm actually trained on 40 facilities.
Wow.
So yeah, because remember I'm a PRN part-time type person, so I do help multiple teams. That's where I'm different, I guess. So I help another Northeast team, even though I'm not there any, not part of their actual team anymore. I am trained on them in case they need help. Um, and so I am trained on 40 facilities.
Wow. That's amazing.
Thank you. That's why I told you Control F, Control F, Control F.
So